Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 7, Chapter 5, Prahlad, the saintly son of Hiranyakashipu, text 23 again. Shri Prahladananda Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu Smarnam Padasevanam Archanam Vandanam Dasyam Sakyam Atma Nivedanam. Shri Prahladananda Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu Smarnam Padasevanam Archanam Vandanam Dasyam Sakyam Atma Nivedanam. Shri Prahladananda Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu Smarnam Padasevanam Archanam Vandanam Dasyam Sakyam Atma Nivedanam. Dami. Shri Prahladananda Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu Smarnam Padasevanam Archanam Vandanam Dasyam Sakyam Atma Nivedanam. Translation. Prahlad Maharaj said, hearing and chanting about the transcendental holy name, foreign qualities, paraphernalia, and pastimes of Lord Vishnu, remembering them, serving the lotus feet of the Lord, offering the Lord respectful worship with 16 types of paraphernalia, offering prayers to the Lord, becoming his servant, considering the Lord as one's best friend, and surrendering everything unto him. In other words, serving him with the body, mind, and words. These 9 processes are accepted as pure devotional service. One who has dedicated his life in the service of Krishna through these 9 methods should be understood to be the most learned person, for he has acquired complete knowledge. So we're up to, if we can remember what we're up to Smarnam, remembrance. That's why it's good to remember, so we know at least where we're up to. Smarnam. After one regularly performs the process of hearing and chanting, and after the core of one's heart is cleansed, Smarnam, remembering, is recommended. In Srimad Bhagavatam 2:1-11, Shukadeva Goswami tells King Parikshit, Etan nirvidyamananam ichitam akato bayam yoginam ripa nirnitam harer nama nukirtanam. O King, for great yogis who have completely renounced all material connections, for those who desire all material enjoyment, and for those who are self-satisfied by dint of transcendental knowledge, constant chanting of the holy name of the Lord is recommended. According to different relationships with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, there are varieties of nama nu kirtanam, chanting of the holy name, and thus according to different relationships and mellows, there are 5 kinds of remembering. These are as follows. A. Conducting research into the worship of a particular form of the Lord. B. Concentrating the mind on one subject and withdrawing the mind's activities of thinking, feeling, and willing from all other subjects. C. Concentrating upon a particular form of the Lord. This is called meditation. D. Concentrating one's mind continuously on the form of the Lord. This is called Dhruva Anusmriti, or perfect meditation. And E. Awakening a liking for concentration upon a particular pastime of the Lord in particular circumstances is called remembrance. Therefore, samadhi trance can be possible in 5 different ways in terms of one's relationship. Specifically, the trance of devotees on the stage of neutrality is called mental concentration. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Budaya Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namane Namaste Saraswatunde Gauravani Pacharane Nirvishesha Srinivadi Paskyatyade Siddharne. Hearing about Krishna and chanting about Krishna and then remembering Krishna, these are progressive stages. And they're explained in different ways by our acharyas, according to our circumstances. Here Prabhupada's giving a little bit more of the esoteric version of the 5 stages of progressive Krishna Smaranam, which is explained by Bhaktivinoda Thakur in one way, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada in a different way, and Srila Prabhupada in a different way. Now, for Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, who was following the more or less, at least to some extent, the Babaji line, and because Babaji it's not a derogatory word. I remember one time Hari Saripur was asking me, I saw him in Vrindavan, and he kept on saying, "Where's the Baba?" I said, "Which Baba?" He said, "No, the Baba." So I said, "Which Baba?" He said, "The Baba. The Baba, Baba." He's from somewhere in England or something. So I said, "Baba, what are you going to the Baba for?" It was Barba. So sometimes we take his derogatory, but previously, all the Vaishnavas were more or less Babajis. All the advanced Vaishnavas were Babajis. They were above sannyas. Sannyas is the topmost in the Varnashram system. And after you transcend sannyas, you become a Babaji. Which means they renounce everything and simply hear and chant about Krishna. Paramahansa. There are 4 stages of sannyas: Bahudak, Kudachak, Parabhajakacharya, and Paramahansa. So Babaji is on the last stage. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada took sannyas in the Parabhajakacharya mood in order to differentiate himself from his Paramahansa guru. So he took sannyas out of humility. Now, generally in the beginning, devotees took sannyas so they can become Maharajas. Maharaj at that time meant the king of the Maha. Because the prasadam wasn't always so good, but if you got the Maha, you were practically a king. So you became a Maharaj so you can get the Maha, king of the Maha, dominate the Maha. Because that's about the only thing that the Maharajas can dominate nowadays. In any case, from the Babaji point of view, because they had nothing else to do, and hopefully they were qualified, then they were already past the preliminary stages of Shravanam, Kirtanam, and they were concentrating on Smaranam. But Srila Prabhupada explains, as Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada explained, Shravana Das, Kirtan, Varna Das, and then Smarana Dasa. Dasa. Shravana Dasa means the stage. It's spelled the same thing as Das, but it's Dasa. Means the stage of Shravana, of hearing. So that means that we should find a suitable place, try to renounce things, our material attachments, and sit down and hear the Krishna conscious philosophy. So that's what the temple's for, Hare Krishna. So we can have a nice, comfortable place where we don't have to fall asleep, hopefully. A lot of times devotees, they take shelter of the wall in the temple. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada used to say that was impersonalism, taking shelter of a wall. And the worst thing is taking shelter of the wall and then falling asleep, which is quite comfortable, the wall. So instead of transcending the modes of nature, we transcend Krishna consciousness, or descend from Krishna consciousness. In any case, Shravana Das means to find a suitable place, suitable circumstances, suitable mentality so we can hear. Now, we had our class in downtown Ljubljana. We more than likely have more distractions. Less the coronavirus, there's a lockdown, and it's probably quite peaceful in downtown Ljubljana. In any case, the idea of here to put aside all the other things and just listen. And what is the idea of listening? Varna dasa, come to the stage of accepting. In other words, if we keep on hearing the same thing over and over again, maybe the mind will surrender and think, all right, I surrender, I'll try it out. I'll do it, I'll follow it. Keeps on saying the same thing over and over again. I rejected it the first 1,000 times, maybe 1,001 I'll accept. And actually try it out, try to apply it within my life. Because hearing is not meant just for the sake of hearing. Sometimes the devotees, they like classes where it's one continuous pastime, because then they can relate to it, especially if the pastime is something funny or extraordinary, or has a little bit of Madhurya Rasa in it, or is about animals or children. Then it becomes interesting to the mind. Doesn't really help us usually very much if it's just one pastime after another. It keeps us awake sometimes, but we can't remember what was said or how to apply it. How to apply Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's ecstasy when he became all his bodily limbs became a tortoise. You can try. Get into that ecstasy. But we can't really apply it very well. Although it's certainly, the principle is a higher principle that can be applied or can be appreciated when one is on a higher stage of consciousness. But in the beginning, we try to just hear the basic philosophy, like give up contemplating the objects of the senses. Why give up contemplating the objects of the senses? So many nice objects to contemplate. Why should we deny Krishna's creation and contemplate it? Because our intelligence is lost and our memory is lost, and we simply wind up in delusion, being influenced by more lust, anger, and greed, and delusion. And therefore, certainly remembrance is there, remembrance of everything but Krishna. To find the suitable place, suitable atmosphere, have the suitable mood. And what is that mood? That one should have no goal in life save and accept act in Krishna consciousness, just to try and satisfy Krishna. Or as Prabhupada said, that one should serve the spiritual master just like a menial servant without false prestige. Satisfaction of the self-realized spiritual master is the secret of advancement in spiritual life. Blind following and absurd inquiries are condemned, that one should not only hear submissively, but one should get a clear understanding through submission, service, and inquiries. The spiritual master by nature is very kind to the disciple, and when the disciple is always submissive and is ready to render service, one has to pass the test of the spiritual master. And when the spiritual master sees the genuine desire of the disciple, he automatically blesses him with spiritual knowledge. In this verse, the one should be when the disciple is always submissive and is submission and service constitutes the proper combination of his spiritual understanding. When the disciple is always submissive and is ready to render service, then the reciprocation of knowledge and the inquiries becomes perfect. In other words, there's a certain atmosphere that's trying to be developed. That is submission. That's why, generally speaking, the person who's giving the class sits on a higher seat, not because the atmosphere is better up here, and therefore he doesn't fall asleep himself. It's so that there's a certain amount of respect, that this person is recognized that he has something to tell us. And we're sitting down there thinking, all right, maybe there's something valuable he's going to tell me. I should listen. So that's submission. But we have to be inquisitive also. So the lecture has to inspire some inquisitiveness. And first of the inquisitiveness is that it has to be a little shocked that I don't know everything. What? What do you mean? What are you telling me I don't know everything? I know more than you. I mean, I know everything, but at least I know more than you. At least I'm not so puffed up like you are, thinking that you know everything. If I was up there, I could tell you a thing or two myself. So there has to be inquisitiveness, and the only way we're going to be inquisitive is if we actually believe that this person may have something to tell me that's valuable for my life. Not that he's going to demonstrate, yatro parvate chitam. It's quote verses, and I think, wow, he's real. The only thing he's proved to me is that he knows more verses than I do. Don't understand a thing that he told me, but it sounds good. Maybe I should start studying verses also, and we can have a nice competition. No, he has to tell us something that we have to be inquisitive, so that in case he tells me something that I can apply within my life, I'll actually be willing to apply it within my life. And that's called varna dasa. Now, the idea of applying it within our life is, Krishna says, Adami Buddhi Yogam Tam. There's only really two topics that these classes are supposed to be about. One is how to become more enthusiastic about devotional service, and the other is how to become more steady in devotional service. Both of them have to be there. Otherwise, the class is a waste of time. And it has to be about Krishna. The whole thing is how to become more steadily engaged in Krishna service with more enthusiasm. Then, Dadami Buddhi Yogam Tam, as Krishna sees we're sincere, then he gives us the intelligence by which we can make progress in spiritual life. And that means become more enthusiastic, actually how to hear with more attention, with more submission, more inquisitiveness, more desire to render service, which is unalloyed and uninterrupted. Or in other words, with priti purvakam and tesham yuktanam, tesham sadatam, you're always connected. Constant connection, connected with Krishna and with enthusiasm. And then Krishna gives more intelligence, and when we come to get enough intelligence, then we come to this smarnam, where Krishna appears within the remembrance of our minds. And when Krishna appears, then we become ecstatic, and things, instead of simply being intellectually based, they become realized. The heart becomes cleansed. And the result is we can actually fix the mind upon Krishna. And in the beginning, this more esoteric explanation is given. At the beginning, it's the conducting research into the worship of a particular form of the Lord. Now, for us, this is not very important because this is for people on the Bhava Bhakta platform, or nearly on the Bhava Bhakta platform. Because for us, every form of Krishna is worshipable. Just like if you're standing on the bottom of the Himalayan mountains, and there's Mount Everest, which is the highest mountain, There may be some other mountain. I don't know the names of the mountains. You know the name of another mountain? Annapurna. What's that? K2. There's K1, K2, K... They're not as tall as the Himalayan mountains, but for us, they're practically as tall. Whether one is 100 meters higher than the other, when you're down at the bottom, they all look about the same. So it's a fact that Krishna, he's the all-attractive Supreme Personality of Godhead. He's Swayam Rupa. But all the other incarnations they're equally worshipable for us. Therefore, to pick one form of Krishna and just think about Krishna is not recommended. Not that someone says, Namaste, Narishing. Oh my God, it's distracting me from Krishna. Maya. Run out of the temple. Oh, Krishna, save me. I almost got distracted by some other form of yours. So this is pretension. In other words, if one tries to imitate a devotee on a higher platform, Prabhupada said he'll fall down from even whatever advancement he's made. There was a club in Los Angeles in the 70s. It had the honorific title of the Gopi Baba Club. Gopi Baba Rasamrita Dila Hari. And there was a male Gopi Baba Club, and there was a female Gopi Baba Club. And they got together, and they just read from Prabhupada's books about Prabhupada, what he said about the gopis. And Prabhupada heard about this, and one of the first things he asked, he said, are the men wearing saris yet? In other words, he wasn't very impressed by the Gopi Baba Club. And then there was some discussion, and one devotee said, but Prabhupada, you said in your books, it says in the Bhagavatam, in the 10th canto, that if one hears these pastimes of Krishna within the gopis, then he'll become purified of whatever contamination is remaining. And Prabhupada said, no, these devotees won't become purified, they'll become putrefied, which means they'll become more and more contaminated. Why? Because if you go to the drugstore, there are so many different medicines. And they're in different bottles, some green, red, orange. And if you decide, well, that kind of like yellowish, reddish bottle matches my dhoti, it must be good for me. So I'll take a couple of those. No one has to find out from the expert physician which medicine is suitable. So for one who's on practically the Bhava Bhakta platform or that platform, then hearing about Krishna with the gopis in the Madhurya Rasa, if one is in that rasa, then one will become purified. And if one is a struggling neophyte attached to women and wealth, when he hears about Krishna and the gopis, he'll become more attached to women and wealth. He'll get contaminated even more. Therefore, this smarna for us is try to remember something that we've heard so we could put it into practice. That if we actually hear, we actually accept, then we should actually remember it so we can put it into practice. So the things that we accept, we should go over again and again so we remember, and then see what practical application it has. Then the result is that, as it says actually in the meditation, absorption, remembrance, constant remembrance, and samadhi. So these are the 5 stages of progressive Krishna Smarana, known as Shravanam, Dharana, Dhyana, Dhyana Anusmriti, and Samadhi in the Sanskrit. These are modified. In other words, when one can even remember Krishna a little bit, one has tried to come to the platform of remembrance in one's life. And for Prabhupada especially said, we should see through the eyes of Scripture, through Bhagavad Gita. That will bring us to the platform of liberation. and ultimately to the stage of perfection in Krishna consciousness. In the 13th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, the end of the 13th chapter, Kshetra Kshetraya Jnanam Antara Jnana Chakshusha Bhuta Bhratithi Moksham Cha Ye Viduryanti Te Param. Those who see with the eyes of knowledge the difference between the body and the knower of the body and can understand the process of liberation from bondage, material nature, attain to the supreme goal. In other words, to actually see through the eyes of Scripture, Jnana Chakshush, or in the 15th chapter. In any case, in other words, we're supposed to see. One who can understand the difference between the body and the knower of the body, can understand the process of liberation, he attains to the supreme goal. So we don't have to meditate on any particular pastime or form of Krishna. These things will be developed on a higher stage. But we do have to see through the eyes of Scripture, so everywhere we look, we remember one thing at least. Everything here belongs to Krishna. And if we can remember two things, that we have the capacity, then we should think everything is meant for Krishna's service. If we remember those two things, then we'll become liberated. And if we remember three things, we'll become pure devotees. Everything here belongs to Krishna. Everything is meant for Krishna's service. And I should utilize these things to please Krishna. Then our life will become perfect. That's all we have to remember. And remember that, then gradually, that's called remembrance. And then dharana, then we'll begin to remember some forms of Krishna. Then we'll be able to constantly think about those forms. And then it'll expand into the pastimes. And then we'll always think about Krishna. We'll never forget him. And that will be our perfection. And if we try something else, as explained here, concentrating the mind on some form of Krishna. Of course, if you want to, we could recommend, you can concentrate your mind in the form of Lord Tortoise. There shouldn't be any harm in doing that. Concentrate your mind on Kurma. Kurma is actually the form of Madhurya Rasa. Because the mellows, watery mellows of Madhurya Rasa. But generally, most people don't get too sexually excited thinking about a tortoise. So it's pretty safe. But I don't think you should do that. And then concentrating the mind on the subject, withdrawing the mind's activities of thinking, feeling, willing from all other subjects. So our subject is the subject of devotional service. Serving Krishna, serving the Sankirtan movement, which fix our mind and withdraw our mind from all other activities, and then concentrating on a particular form of the Lord, called meditation, concentrating one's mind consistently on the form of the Lord, and awakening one's liking for concentration on a particular form. In any case, somehow or another, some form, something about Krishna we should remember, and then we'll make progress in devotional service. And that's done by, first of all, just accepting again that everything here belongs to Krishna. Everything is meant for Krishna's service. And I should do something to please Krishna under Krishna's guidance of his representatives. Then the result is we'll think about Krishna somehow or another. And our lives will become perfect in Krishna consciousness. So I'll stop there. Thank you. Any questions?
Hare Krishna. For being awake during the class, wouldn't it be advantageous to use some asanas or pranayama or some auxiliary means? for inaugurating.
Well, probably the easiest thing is to have someone walk around with the water and squirt. That way you don't have to practice any external activity. Yeah, it's a little pranayama helps probably, or stand up, then you can breathe a little bit better. You know, when you're sitting down, it's more difficult to breathe. So if you stand up, you can breathe better. As far as asana, we all have asanas here. Just sit on an asana. Asana actually meant sukha and sthira, so that you can sit on someplace comfortably and steadily. But if you fall asleep and you want to do a little exercise, that's good. Otherwise, the only exercise we usually have is we exercise our tongue, eating. And the rest of the time we meditate on the form of prasadam in our stomach. Then it's very difficult to stay awake because all the energy is absorbed in that meditation. Is there a particular asana you recommend?
During class?
Yeah. Vrikshasana. Tree pose. Okay. Can you demonstrate it? Well, as I said, I had one disciple. He never got enough sleep. And during a kirtan, he jumped up in the air and fell asleep in the air. And he fell down and broke his teeth. So don't do vrikshasana unless you're partially awake. But definitely if you do vrikshasana, you'll have to concentrate on something. If you want to stay, you don't want to fall down. Standing vrikshasana during class and falling out of it is called a fall down. Anything else? Yes.
When we perform devotional service, at least for myself, it's still, no, it's not that Krishna is the center. We are doing things for our benefit, which is probably natural because it's natural to want to have benefit from things. But
yeah.
But what is right? I don't understand sometimes. No, I don't have a really good feeling about it sometimes. So how to put it in the right perspective? How to understand it?
Well, we ourselves are spiritual souls, so our benefit is to benefit the soul. Now, because we identify ourselves with the body, we think we'll get benefit, the soul will get benefit by serving the body. So we do get some benefit. But since we're a soul, the supreme object of our service should be Krishna, and then we get the maximum benefit. So if we really want our benefit, we should serve something which will benefit us the most, that's all. We're servants, now we're serving our body and senses to benefit ourselves. But if we serve Krishna, then we'll get more benefit in serving our body and soul and mind, and even our body and mind will be benefited. So we should know what our real benefit is, what our real interest is. Then we get the maximum benefit.
So then it's not wrong. It's okay to make devotional service with that motive.
Yeah, everyone is interested in benefit. You shouldn't do devotional service to make yourself suffer. Yeah, I'm going to do devotional service. I'm really going to suffer today, boy. I'm going to just completely surrender to Krishna and suffer like anything. No, everyone is self-interested. But we should know what our self-interest is. And ultimately, on a very advanced platform, when we realize that we're a particle of Krishna, then we'll realize that, serving Krishna is more important. Is when we serve Krishna, our little benefit is there, but there's so much more benefit. We'll love Krishna millions of times more than we even love ourselves, because we're even included within Krishna. But Krishna is millions of times more lovable than we are. So we'll love Krishna more than even ourselves. But that's, at this particular stage, we don't know Krishna very well. We don't even know ourselves. But we should know that by serving Krishna, we'll be benefiting ourselves and everyone else too. So we should know what our real benefit is. And we should work for that benefit ourselves. And then when we do that, we'll be working for Krishna's benefit, for everyone's benefit. The last, in Sharanagati, next to last perfection or advancement is to have no interest outside of Krishna's interest. So that's a stage that develops when we become aware of what our real interest is.
So we should not push for it, but it comes naturally.
Well, you should push for it by doing devotional service with the right attitude. But we can't, it'll come naturally, but we should go in the right direction. Not that we chant japa and we're smoking a bidi and we think, well, it's just going to happen sooner or later. No, we should do.
It should not be internally imitated or something.
No, imitating is useless. It's like if if a woman is not pregnant, but she wants to be pregnant, and she imitates the sounds of giving birth to a child, she's not going to give birth to anything. First become pregnant, and then give birth to a child. Then the sounds actually have some meaning. Okay, thank you very much. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Gaur Premanande.